To my sisters and brothers in the political revolution, do not despair. I'm not going to lie to you and say that victory is assured, but take heart. This race is far from over. First off, no one truly knows where the race stands. Case in point, California. Bernie won the state by a significant margin, but there are still delegates to be awarded there, and it could be weeks or months before we have the final tally. As it stands, most pundits surmise that the delegate difference is between 60 and 65 without those California delegates awarded, and we're just past the halfway point in the primary. Despite the steady stream of propaganda to which you are exposed if you regularly watch corporate media, this thing is really just beginning. We now have essentially a two-person race. I say essentially because even if you are unaware, there is still an outstanding woman of color hanging in there. Amidst calls to drop out, a DNC establishment blackout, and countless corporate media smears, as I speak to you right now, Tulsi Gabbard is still campaigning, still taking her message directly to the people. I have to send love and respect her way because she is keeping her promise to her supporters and getting the message out. Tulsi has 2 delegates. 2. And she has been frozen out of the debates. But let's put this into perspective. Amy Klobuchar amassed a whopping 7 delegates despite her status as an establishment darling and her weeks of free cable news advertising about Clomentum, which, if I'm honest, still sounds like some sort of antifungal medication being pushed on us by Big Pharma. So, mad props to Tulsi. She is speaking out and telling truth to power, which is far more than we ever got from the establishment candidates who each had their time in the spotlight and have since dropped out to support Biden. Tulsi deserves to be on stage at the next debate. Keep pressing. I doubt the DNC will listen, but seriously, when has that ever stopped us? The Democratic primary is a unique beast, which can turn on any candidate at any time. So do not lose hope. Even if you are already voted, there are still ways to keep fighting, but more on that in a bit. First, I want to offer some more perspective. Anyone out there remember Bernie Sanders? Let's hop into the Wayback Machine to Portland, Oregon, March 24th, 2016.
I want every kid in Oregon and Washington and Vermont to understand that if he or she does their schoolwork seriously, does well, takes school. What? Now you see, this little bird doesn't know it. Oh my. I think there may be some symbolism here. I know it doesn't look like it, but that bird is really a dove asking us for world peace. No more wars.
In 2016, Bernie was far behind in the delegate count and seemed even farther behind because the media kept including the superdelegates in Hillary's count. Yet still we dared to hope. Why would we give up now? Why would we be despondent? Bernie is in a virtual tie with Joe Biden. His situation this time around is exponentially stronger. The primary is headed to the industrial Midwest, where disastrous trade deals championed by Joe Biden, have decimated entire communities. We've headed into the very places who voted for Trump, not because they liked him, but because the neoliberal Obama-Biden agenda had failed them. Trump lied to them. He harnessed their anger to achieve an electoral college victory, then screwed them over, and they know it. After Hillary's 2016 loss, several cable news networks attempted to distance themselves from their part in the debacle by hosting town halls featuring Bernie in Trump Town, one after the other. Bernie went into these hostile rooms and by talking with the people either found out on air that they would have voted for him instead of Trump if they could have, or won them over after having the opportunity to clarify his positions to those who could most be helped by his policies. I doubt they've forgotten. Now, unlike Hillary, my aversion to Joe Biden is not personal. It's based on two factors. First, I don't believe a return to the pre-Trump state of politics in this country is either worthwhile or sustainable. Hitting the reset button to the status quo that existed before Trump does nothing for the country but return it to the conditions which gave rise to Trump in the first place. The very notion is the textbook definition of insanity. The nation needs more than a return to the Obama years. I'd say the nation demands it. But if you're watching this, I'm fairly certain you're aware that the Democratic establishment cares very little for what the nation demands. And we saw how well that worked out for them by anointing Hillary in 2016, then pandering to moderate Republicans in a failed bid for centrism, which only resulted in alienating half of their own party. Second, I believe Biden is experiencing significant cognitive decline. His gaffes are not cute examples of folksiness or the result of a stuttering disorder, nor are they simply the result of age. Bernie is slightly older and still more energetic and cognitively sharp than most people half his age. Biden's inability to communicate effectively is the result of a cognitive decline. Take a look at this clip from 2016. This was Vice President Joe Biden speaking on CNN prior to Barack Obama's final State of the Union address.
You know, if Bernie Sanders never said he was a democratic socialist, based on what he's saying, people wouldn't be calling him a democratic socialist. That's how he characterizes himself in sort of European terms, the democratic socialist parties in Europe.
But why is she having trouble?
Well, I think that Bernie is speaking to a yearning that is deep and real, and he has credibility on it. And that is the absolute enormous concentration of wealth in a small group of people with the middle class now being able to be shown being left out. There used to be a basic bargain. If you contributed to the profitability of an enterprise, you got to share in the profit. That's been broken. Productivity's up, wages are stagnant.
But Hillary's talking about that as well.
Well, it's relatively new for Hillary to talk about that. Hillary's focus has been on other things up to now, and that's been Bernie's. No one questions Bernie's authenticity on those issues.
And they question hers, you think?
Well, I think they question everybody's who hasn't been talking about it all along. But I think she's come forward with some really, really thoughtful approaches to deal with the issue. But I just think, and look, you know, everybody, you know, it's the old thing. Everybody wants to be the favorite. No one wants to be the prohibitive favorite. Mm-hmm. And so it's an awful high bar for her to meet, that she was the absolute prohibitive favorite. I never thought she was a prohibitive favorite. I don't think she ever thought she was a prohibitive favorite. So I think it's, you know, everything's sort of coming down to earth.
This was Vice President Joe Biden. So who exactly is it that's running now? Yes, this was Joe, understanding why Bernie was a strong candidate, something he is either pretending not to know or has forgotten in the current race. But the relevant aspect is how much more with it he was in 2016. The man running today barely resembles the man in the clip. The Vice President Joe Biden of 2016 might have been able to take on a fledgling Donald Trump campaign. But 2020 candidate Joe Biden will be destroyed before he ever steps onto a general election debate stage. But that's only half the story. Shouldn't we want the Democratic nominee to actually, be capable of successfully fulfilling the role of the President of the United States? This is when we fight. This is why we fight. Because we can't rely on anyone else to do it for us. The institutions are not going to get behind a change maker because when change comes, institutions can no longer stagnate. So here we are. Super Tuesday sucked. So what? Is there really anyone out there who didn't expect the neoliberal candidates to coalesce around a standard bearer eventually? They're neoliberals. Following the leader and seeking cover behind bigger fish is what they do best. There was no way Amy or Pete would have dropped out of the race to endorse an opponent unless there were assurances of greater power down the road. And come on, we all know Bernie is not that sort of transactional politician to trade away progress for personal gain. Perhaps if he were considering one of them as a VP pick, he might offer an alliance, but not across-the-board deal-making in an attempt to rein in those rabid progressive voters who dare to ask for a shred of security or human decency in their lives or equity and fair value on the taxes they pay. Now, if a neoliberal unification was expected, why then are so many of our progressive sisters and brothers so despondent? Why does the mood around the campfire seem so defeated? Sure, it's practically impossible to turn on any sort of live television without being told to fall in line and give up. Cable news is awash in pundits and the consultant class telling us that a tie for Bernie is a shellacking. And the indoctrination is so hard to stave off this week because the manipulation is a study in emotional extremes. Put more simply, as a progressive, we're not used to winning. We're less accustomed to the whiplash of electoral politics. We're used to getting mugged by the media and clubbed by the consultancy. As a result, after the resounding victory in Nevada and the resulting freakout highlighted by talking heads on fire and grudging but undeniable recognition of legitimacy, a return to our familiar underdog status can only seem like a letdown. Couple that with a week-long barrage of smug pundit happy dances and another round of vote blue no matter who as long as it's the candidate we give you malarkey. And yes, I said malarkey because I've been assured that using phraseology from the 1950s makes you more electable in 2020. I don't have the data to prove it, but my theory is that because we're not used to winning and because the Nevada victory was so overwhelming, the crucial youth vote, again, unused to the fickle affectations of political success, expected that momentum would simply carry the day without their participation. I mean, why not? It works when the party elites anoint a candidate. It's understandable. I mean, who in their right mind would cast a vote for no better reason than nostalgia? Seriously? It wasn't even out of nostalgia for the candidate. It could more realistically be viewed as nostalgia by association. Either way, I believe that progressives become emotional over their hopes and dreams of the lives we can have if certain policies are enacted. And no, it's not safe, but progress rarely is. Neoliberals vote out of a need for security and the skewed vision of a paradise lost. I believe in democracy. If you vote out of a rounded understanding of the implications and policies presented by the candidates, you have my respect. Vote based on the person who shares your values, not the memory of a time before Trump or a misplaced loyalty to a system which failed you but made you feel better about yourself due to a veneer of civility. I miss the eloquence of Obama too. But he was the last in a long line of policy enactors that gave rise to a Trump administration. To pretend otherwise is dangerous to every generation that comes after you. Vote for the candidate who will fight to bring about the change you wish to see in the country, not just the change you wish to see in the White House. And in the name of all you believe to be holy, do not condemn our nation by voting for one man out of nostalgia for another. So what happens now? What can we do? You already know the answer. We do the same things we've always done. We stand together. We volunteer. We take Bernie journeys to other states to knock on doors and get out the vote. If we're unable to travel, we sign up to take a shift on the Bernie dialer or text. We take to social media and blanket the feeds with shared Bernie ads. We share the facts without going on the attack, because the facts speak for themselves. We coordinate through technology by liking, subscribing, and sharing independent media like this channel locally and others nationally. And above all, we do not despair. We do not give up. This is now and has always been about more than just Bernie. It's about more than any one primary or election. But make no mistake, we are in the fight of our lives. We fight for justice in all its forms. We fight for the future of our country, the future of our children, and nothing less than the future of our planet. We don't all fight in the same way. Fight in whatever way you fight best. And above all, fight for those who can't fight for themselves, even if it's because they're afraid to learn how. This future we strive for belongs to all of us. Hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell so you can spread the word and so you are notified when we post new content. And remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Be kind to yourself. Every one of our sisters and brothers has something valuable to contribute to the world, even if we only see it in the rearview mirror of history. This is Adam with Progressive Voice. If our thoughts move you, smash that like and subscribe button and share our links with your friends. The more you share, the more we flood the feed. The feed with the progressive message moves us forward. And don't forget to hit the bell down below to be notified when we post new content to engage, educate, and empower your progressive voice. We'll chat soon.